You think you know your own son, right? I thought I did, until my brothers were reading, when the truth about my estranged son, and the woman pulling his strings, unraveled in a way that left me absolutely speechless. It was a betrayal so deep, so calculated, it still makes my blood run cold. I remember walking into that lawyer's office, my heart heavy with grief. My brother, Robert, was gone. 68 years of shared memories, him teaching me to ride my bike, walking me down the aisle, calling me every single Sunday without fail. Now all that love, all that life, was reduced to a manila folder on a mahogany table. I was already reeling. But that wasn't the first sign something was deeply wrong. It wasn't even the sympathetic glances from Thomas, Robert's lawyer. No, it was James, my son, the one who hadn't spoken to me in 3 years. He showed up 20 minutes late, swaggering in with his wife, Bella. They weren't dressed for a funeral, or well reading. They looked like they were closing a $1 million business deal. Bella, in particular, radiated this almost gleeful arrogance. She marched straight to the chair I'd been eyeing, the one with the best view of the lawyer's documents. Without a word, she just slid into it. Then, with a deafening thud, her designer Chanel purse, $4,800, I recognized it from a magazine at the dentist's, landed on the table. It screamed, "This is my space now." "Sorry we're late, Mom." James, bless his heart, tried to play the role of the grieving son. He squeezed my shoulder as he passed, but his hand was cold, almost lifeless, even through my thick cardigan. "Traffic was murder coming from the city," he mumbled. I just nodded. I didn't bother to tell him I'd driven twice as far from my apartment in Phoenix, and arrived 30 minutes early. I didn't tell him my hands had been shaking so violently on the steering wheel, I'd had to pull over twice. My brother was gone, and these 2 vultures were already circling. A fresh pot of coffee sat steaming on the table. My throat felt like sandpaper from the 3-hour drive, and I reached for it almost instinctively. But before my fingers could even touch the handle, Bella's hand shot out. Faster than I could blink. Her perfectly manicured nails, that deep blood red that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill, wrapped around the pot. "Maybe not, Evelyn," she purred, her voice dripping with honey-sweet condescension. "Wouldn't want it spilling on your papers." My papers. As if I was the clumsy, incompetent old woman who couldn't be trusted with hot liquids. My hand recoiled, slowly, almost reluctantly, and settled into my lap. I pressed my thumb so hard into my palm, I felt the bite of my own fingernail. It was the only way I knew I was still breathing, still present, still watching this woman treat me like a child in a room where I was supposed to be family. Thomas Whitfield, Robert's lawyer, cleared his throat. He looked exhausted. Grief etched into the lines around his eyes. He'd known Robert for 30 years, stood in the pouring rain at the funeral just 3 days ago while the rest of us huddled under umbrellas. "Let's begin," he said, his voice raspy. James gave him a curt nod, a little too eager. It was like he was saying, "Go ahead. We're ready. Not we're grieving, or this is hard. No, ready." As if this was a business meeting they'd been preparing for, not the reading of a beloved uncle's last wishes. I clenched my hands tighter in my lap, the leather of my purse digging into my ankle where I tucked it under my chair. Inside that purse, hidden deep, was a cream-colored envelope. My name, in Robert's unmistakable handwriting, scrawled across it. He'd given it to me 2 years ago, right after his first heart attack. "Don't open it unless you need to, Evie," he'd said, his hand trembling as he pressed it into mine. "Promise me. Only when you need to." I promised. It had been with me ever since, moving from bag to bag. A silent, mysterious talisman. Thomas began to read, his voice a low murmur. The first few minutes were standard. Robert's funeral wishes, already carried out. A few personal items to old friends. A generous donation to the American Heart Association, $5,000 to the animal shelter where he volunteered every Saturday. Then Thomas paused, shuffling papers, and I caught a flicker of concern in his eyes as he looked at me. "To my sister, Evelyn Gable," he read, his voice gaining a quiet power. "I leave the entirety of the lodge in White Elk County, Colorado, including its land, contents, and associated deed. The property is to be hers, free and clear, with no encumbrances." The words hung in the air, thick like smoke. The paralegal, the notary, Thomas's assistant, all turned their heads, looking at me with a mix of surprise and sympathy. James, he didn't even turn. Instead, he clapped. Once. Too loud. The sound boomed in the silent room, utterly jarring. "That's wonderful news, Mom," he practically shouted, his enthusiasm utterly manufactured. "We'll finally get to build something together. We. Not you. Not congratulations on inheriting Uncle Robert's beloved property. Just we. And then Bella." She practically lunged forward, her chair scraping against the hardwood. "A family retreat center," she practically gasped, already scrolling furiously on her tablet, the screen's glow illuminating her triumphant face. "Wellness packages, maybe winter skiing specials. James and I have been developing concepts. Developing concepts? For a property I just inherited? A property I hadn't even seen in 5 years, because Robert had been too sick to host visitors, and I'd been working double shifts in an elementary school cafeteria just to keep my health insurance. The location is perfect, James continued, oblivious, as if Thomas wasn't even holding the will, as if there weren't 6 more pages left to read. We've already connected with an architect, Thompson from Boulder. He's done 3 resort properties. We could break ground by spring. My throat closed, not from grief anymore. No, this was something else. A sudden, cold, horrible realization that had me gasping for air. They'd been planning this, planning it while Robert was still alive. While I was rationing my blood pressure medication and choosing between groceries and my heating bill, they were sketching blueprints for a property that wasn't even mine yet. We'll take the Gable name, Bella declared, angling her tablet toward me. The screen showed stock photos of spa resorts, pristine white robes, infinity pools overlooking mountains, stone pathways. And finally make it worth something. Finally make it worth something. My brother had bought that lodge 37 years ago, saved for a decade to afford it. He restored every beam, replaced every window, meticulously kept the original stone fireplace dating back to 1923. He'd hosted family Thanksgivings there, taught my son to fish in the creek that ran through the property, let my grandchildren, James's kids from his first marriage, spend every summer climbing trees and catching fireflies. Worth something. As if the memories, the love, the life held in those walls were utterly worthless compared to weekend packages and wine pairings. I couldn't speak. I just pressed my thumbnail deeper into my palm, feeling the skin break. Thomas continued reading about Robert's book collection, going to the local library, his vintage fishing rods, to his friend Marcus from the Veterans Hall. But James and Bella weren't listening. They were huddled together, heads bent, Bella's tablet propped between them like a blueprint for my future. The master bedroom, James said, tracing something on the screen. That could be our VIP investor suite. The view from there is incredible. We'll need to update the kitchen, Bella added, a predatory gleam in her eye. Industrial equipment. Maybe bring in a chef for premium packages. I looked down at my hands. 67 years old. Skin thin, veins prominent, knuckles swollen with arthritis that screamed every winter. These hands had worked. For decades of steady, honest labor. These hands had held my brother's when he got his cancer diagnosis, when his wife died. And these hands had held his, just last year, when he'd made me promise to protect the lodge. Protect it from anyone who'd turn it into something cheap. Anything like this. At the edge of my vision, my purse sat half unzipped. The corner of that cream envelope, faded red like dried blood, peeked out. Only when you need to. Oh, Robert. I needed to. Thomas finished reading. The room began to empty, people murmuring condolences. I barely heard them, just shook hands automatically. Bella was already on her phone, typing furiously. I'm texting the architect, she announced to no one in particular. We should get the survey done before winter. James touched my arm. Mom, I know this is overwhelming, but don't worry. I'll handle everything. You just enjoy the view. Relax. You've earned it. You've earned it. He made it sound like I was being put out to pasture. Like the lodge was a retirement gift, not a sacred inheritance. Like my only role was to sit in a rocking chair and smile while they demolished everything Robert had built. I stood up, smoothing the front of my coat. A thrift store find, 3 years old, missing a button I'd replaced with one that almost matched. I'd like some time alone, I said, my voice barely a whisper. To process. Of course, James said too quickly. Take all the time you need. Bella and I will just start preliminary planning. Logistics, you know. We won't do anything major without talking to you. Without talking to me. Not without your permission. Not without your approval. Just talking to me, as if I was a consultant to be informed, not the owner. I left the office before they could see my hands shaking. Before the anger, a raw, burning fire in my chest, could escape as tears they'd mistake for grief. Once in my car, doors locked, I pulled out the envelope. Robert's familiar handwriting blurred through my suddenly wet eyes. Only when you need to. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal and opened it. I left Phoenix at dawn, the envelope's contents spread across my passenger seat. A flash drive, a handwritten letter, and a business card for Thomas Whitfield, a phone number circled 3 times in frantic red ink. The letter was pure, Robert. No wasted words, just the brutal truth laid bare. Evie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And James has shown you who he really is. My heart hammered against my ribs. 3 years ago, Robert wrote, James had come to him, desperate, asking for $400,000. Gambling debts, bad investments. He needed to make it right before Bella found out. Robert, being Robert, said no. Not because he couldn't afford it, but because he knew money wouldn't fix the real problem. And then I read the words that made my blood run cold. He said something that night I'll never forget. You should just die already. Then everything would be mine anyway. I don't think he meant it. Not really. But I heard it clear as day. And I knew I had to protect you. Protect the lodge. There was more. Video recordings on the flash drive. Proof James had been planning this for years. Not with Bella, Robert added. She came later, made it worse. But the seed was always there. And then the bombshell. I've set up a trigger clause in the will. Thomas knows about it. If anyone tries to commercialize the lodge or transfer the deed without your explicit, notarized consent, the property automatically goes to the National Land Trust. Forever protected. But here's the kicker. Robert wrote, you have to let them try. Let them plan. Let them reveal themselves. Only then will the clause activate. And only then will you see James clearly enough to make the choice I know you'll have to make. I love you. Be strong. Robert. I pulled over at a rest stop somewhere in New Mexico, engine off, and sat there for an hour, just reading that letter, over and over, until I'd memorized every word. My son, my baby boy, who'd held my hand crossing streets, who'd cried when his goldfish died, who called me every Mother's Day until he met Bella 5 years ago. $400,000 in gambling debts. And, you should just die already. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. It was a refurbished model I'd bought for $200 at Best Buy, my one luxury, so I could video chat with my grandkids before James's divorce put an end to those calls. The first video was dated 3 years ago. Robert's home office. Late evening, judging by the darkness outside. James sat across from him, younger, more hair, but with that exact same entitled, confident expression I'd seen in the lawyer's office. Like the world owed him something. I'm not asking for charity, Uncle Robert, James said, trying to sound dignified. I'm asking for an investment. A bridge loan. For gambling debts. Robert's voice was steady. Sad. That's not an investment, James. That's enabling. I'll pay you back with interest. James pleaded. What you need is help, Robert replied gently. Professional help. There are programs. I don't need a program. I need $400,000. The video continued, 15 agonizing minutes of James pleading, reasoning, then finally, subtly threatening. The words, you should just die already. Then everything would be mine anyway, came at minute 13. So casual, so bitter, thrown out like he was complaining about traffic. Robert stayed calm, told James to leave, to think about what he'd said. James left. The video ended. There were 4 more videos. Each one showed James returning, apologizing, then asking again. Slightly different approaches, but the same raw desperation underneath. The last video was dated just 6 months before Robert's death. That's when Bella made her first appearance. She was perched on the edge of Robert's couch, perfectly professional, polished. Mr. Gable, she said, I'm here to help mediate. James tells me there's been some tension. There's been honesty, Robert countered, his voice sharp. Something I suspect you're not familiar with. Bella's smile never wavered. I understand you're protective of your estate. That's wise. But James is family, and family takes care of each other. Family doesn't threaten family, Robert shot back. Family doesn't circle like vultures waiting for death. Nobody's circling, her voice cooled. We're planning. There's a difference. Planning what? Robert asked, his eyes narrowing. The future. The lodge, specifically. It's a valuable property, wasted on, she caught herself, then smoothly finished. It could be more. That's all I'm saying. Robert stood up. This conversation is over. And Bella, I know who you are. Rebecca Stone, the woman who destroyed the Reeves family ranch 4 years ago. You changed your name, changed your story, but not your playbook. The video ended with Bella's face frozen in pure, unadulterated shock. I watched all 5 videos. Twice. Taking furious notes, copying everything to a second flash drive, a habit from my years as a teacher's aide. Always back up important files. Then I drove. 6 hours straight through desert and mountain passes, stopping only for gas and coffee I couldn't even taste. The late afternoon sun caught the stone chimney of the lodge, making the windows glow golden. 2 stories of hand-cut timber and river rock. The porch where Robert and I used to shell peas in the summer. The swing where I'd read to James when he was 5, before life got so complicated. And then I saw them. 2 cars already filled the driveway, James's BMW, and a contractor's truck with Thompson architecture emblazoned on the side. They'd beaten me here by hours. Long enough, probably, to start making themselves at home. I sat in my car for 5 full minutes, just watching, breathing, pressing my thumb into my palm until the sharp pain centered me. Let them plan. Let them reveal themselves. Robert's words echoed in my head. I grabbed my overnight bag, packed almost instinctively before I'd even left Phoenix. Some part of me had known this place was about to become a battlefield. The front door was unlocked. Voices echoed through the great room. Extend the deck here. Wrap it around the south side. Permits will take 60 days minimum, but I have contacts. Investor prospectus by next week. We need numbers. I stepped into the great room. There were 12 people milling around. Not just James and Bella. There was a man in a crisp shirt holding blueprints, 2 women with iPads, and a photographer setting up lighting equipment in the corner. They'd turned my brother's home into a construction site. James saw me first. Mom. Perfect timing. Come meet Dylan Thompson. He's the architect I was telling you about. Dylan Thompson extended his hand. He was in his 30s, a sincere smile, calluses that told me he actually worked with his hands. Mrs. Gable, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your brother spoke very highly of you. You knew Robert? I asked, a sharp edge to my voice. Something flickered across Dylan's face, discomfort. We met briefly. He was very particular about his property. Particular meaning he told you no. The words came out sharper than I'd intended. Dylan's expression shifted, morphing into something that looked like respect. He told me the lodge wasn't for sale, wasn't for development. That it was meant to stay exactly as it was. And yet here you are, James interjected smoothly. Dylan glanced at my son, then back at me. I was told you'd approved preliminary surveys. I looked at James. He had the decency, finally, to look away. I think there's been a miscommunication, I said quietly, my voice laced with steel. The lodge was left to me, not to James. Decisions about its future are mine alone. Of course, Bella interjected, smooth as silk. Nobody's suggesting otherwise. We're just exploring possibilities, getting ahead of the logistics. So, when you're ready to move forward, we'll have options. When you're ready to move forward, not if, when. As if my agreement was inevitable, as if I was just a signature waiting to happen. I'd like everyone to leave, I said. My voice was calm, but it cut through the room. Now, this is private property. The room froze. The photographer lowered his camera. The iPad women exchanged startled glances. Mom, James started. We've got Dylan here from Boulder. He's on a tight schedule. Then he should go. I finished, meeting Dylan's eyes. I appreciate your time, Mr. Thompson, but whatever James told you, whatever he promised, it's not happening. Dylan nodded slowly, a hint of a smile touching his lips. He started packing his blueprints. I understand, Mrs. Gable. For what it's worth, your brother loved this place. He'd be glad it's in your hands. He left, the iPad women following. The photographer started breaking down his equipment. Bella, however, remained. She was texting furiously, her jaw tight. You just cost us 3 weeks of planning, she hissed. I cost you nothing, I countered, my voice low. You did this to yourselves. We're trying to help you, she spat. This place is a money pit. The property taxes alone are paid through the end of the year. I finished, cutting her off. I'd seen that in Robert's files. Of course he had. He thought of everything. And after that, what's your plan, Evelyn? Bella challenged, a sneer on her face. Live here alone, playing house with memories while the roof caves in? That, I said, is my decision to make. James finally spoke up. Mom, please, can we just talk about this rationally? Rationally? I set my bag down, walked to the stone fireplace where Robert's photo sat, from last summer, smile wide, eyes bright, despite the cancer eating him from inside. Rationally, I said, my voice rising slightly, would have been asking me first. Before hiring architects. Before making plans. Before treating my inheritance like your personal opportunity. It is our opportunity. Bella snapped flatly. James is your only child, your only heir. Everything you have becomes his eventually. We're just accelerating the timeline. Accelerating the timeline. For words that said everything. I was an obstacle. An inconvenience. A delay in their plans. Get out, I said. Just 2 words, but they resonated with a power I didn't know I had. Excuse me. Bella scoffed. Both of you. Out. This is my home now. You are not welcome here. James paled. Mom, you don't mean that. I've never meant anything more clearly in my life. Bella snatched her purse. Fine. We'll give you space to cool down. But Evelyn, you're making a mistake. This lodge is worth $1.38 million. You're living on Social Security and whatever's left of Dad's life insurance. You need us. I need peace, I replied, meeting her furious gaze. And you're standing in the way of it. They left. Finally, Bella's heels clicking hard against the wood floors, James trailing behind her like a scolded child. Through the window, I watched their BMW disappear down the gravel drive. Then I locked the door. Every door. Checked every window. Only then did I let myself sink onto Robert's old leather couch, worn soft from years of use. His reading glasses still sat on the side table, a book, Blood Meridian, the same copy he'd been trying to get through for 3 years, bookmarked halfway. I picked up the glasses, traced the frames, and finally let the tears come. My brother was gone. My son had become a stranger. And I was alone in a house full of ghosts, holding a flash drive full of betrayals. But I wasn't helpless. Robert had seen to that. I pulled out my phone. Thomas Whitfield's number was still in my recent calls. He answered on the second ring. Evelyn, I was wondering when you'd call. Tell me about the trigger clause, I said, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. Tell me everything. That first night, after Thomas had patiently explained all the legal protections Robert had woven into the will, I walked the lodge slowly, relearning its corners, remembering which floorboards creaked just so, where the light fell best in the afternoon. It was therapeutic, almost. Then I reached Robert's office, at the end of the upstairs hall. A heavy oak door, a brass knob that had always turned easily. But now, it wouldn't budge. I tried again, pulled harder, then pressed my ear against the wood, listening. For what, I didn't know. Just some sign that would explain why my brother's private space was suddenly off limits in a house I supposedly owned. Evelyn! James's voice floated up from downstairs. I recoiled from the door. He wasn't supposed to be here. I told them both to leave. Mom, where are you? I descended the stairs slowly, my heart thumping. I found James in the kitchen, casually making coffee, like he owned the place. Bella was nowhere in sight. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice tight. Checking on you, he said, looking earnest. Concerned. For a split second, I saw the son I remembered, the one from before all of this. I felt bad about earlier, about how we handle things. You mean about planning to commercialize my property without even asking? Yeah, that. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd seen him do since he was a teenager struggling with homework. We got ahead of ourselves. I got ahead of myself. I waited. I didn't help him. Didn't offer the forgiveness he hadn't earned. The thing is, he continued, rambling, I owe some people money. Bad investments. How much? I cut him off. How much do you owe, James? He looked away, shifting his weight. That's not important. How much, James? My voice was dangerously quiet. $350,000. The number fell like a stone. Maybe more with interest. My blood ran cold. Gambling. His silence was answer enough. Jesus, James. I sank into a chair, feeling suddenly weak. Your uncle tried to help you 3 years ago. You told him to die. James's face went white. He told you. He's dead, James. That promise died with him. I didn't mean it. You have to know that. I was desperate. I said something stupid. You said something true. I shot back, standing up again, fueled by a fresh wave of anger. You wanted him dead, so you could inherit, so you could fix your mistakes with his money. No, Mom. No. I wanted help. I was drowning, and now you're dragging me down with you. That's not. He stopped, took a breath. Bella has investors. Real ones. If we can just get the lodge converted, we'll make enough to pay everything back with profit. You'll be set for life. I don't want to be set, I said, meeting his desperate gaze. I want to be free. Free to what? Live here alone. You can't maintain this place on your own. The heating system is 30 years old. The roof needs work. The septic is fine. I interrupted, my voice firm. Robert maintained everything. He kept records. I'd found those, too, in a file cabinet by the water heater. Receipts, warranties, professional assessments. My brother had been thorough. James slumped against the counter, defeated. I don't have time, Mom. The people I owe, they're not patient. If I don't have something solid by next month, they're going to... He trailed off, his eyes wide with fear. Going to what? Nothing. Forget it. James. I crossed to him, putting my hand on his arm. I felt him trembling. What are you involved in? Nothing I can't fix, he burst out. If you just sign the deed over temporarily, we'll set up a trust. Put it in your name, but give me power of attorney to handle the business side. I stepped back, pulling my hand away. No, James. I'm not signing anything. You don't understand what's at stake. I understand that you're desperate. I understand that you've made choices that put you in danger. But I won't sacrifice your uncle's legacy to bail you out. James's face hardened. The earnest concern vanished, replaced by something colder, something I didn't recognize. This isn't over. Yes, James, I said, looking him dead in the eye. It is. He left without another word. Didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. Just walked out with the quiet, unsettling determination of someone who hadn't given up yet. I waited until his car disappeared down the drive. Then I went back upstairs to the locked office door. In the bathroom, I found a bobby pin in my old cosmetic bag. Robert's late wife, Sarah, God rest her soul, had taught me how to pick simple locks one Thanksgiving when we'd gotten locked out of the garage. Every woman should know how to get past a locked door, she'd winked. The lock was old, simple. It took me 3 tries, 5 minutes of fumbling, but then, click, it opened. Inside, the office looked untouched. Robert's desk, his computer, filing cabinets lined against one wall, and a small safe hidden behind a framed photo of our parents. The safe had a keypad. I tried Robert's birthday, our mother's birthday, the date he bought the lodge. Nothing. Then I remembered, the date our mother died, January 15th, 1952. Click. The safe opened. Inside was a thick folder, stuffed with papers, photos, printouts of emails, and another letter. This one addressed simply, when you find this. Evie, you found the safe. Good. That means you're ready to know everything. The office was locked because James has a key. I gave it to him years ago, before I knew what he'd become. He's been in here, not recently. I changed the safe code last year, but he knows there are documents here. Things I've been gathering. In this folder, you'll find photos of James at casinos in Vegas, Atlantic City, Reno. Timestamped. Some as recent as 6 months ago. Loan agreements with very dangerous people. Sharks, EV, the kind who don't just ruin credit scores. Emails between James and Bella going back 4 years, planning this. Planning to get the lodge converted. Flip it for profit. Background on Bella. Real name Rebecca Stone. She's done this before. Married into families, identified assets, convinced her husbands to liquidate, then disappeared with the money. For times that I could find, probably more. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $15,000. I didn't tell you about it. Worth every penny. Here's what you need to know. James didn't choose Bella randomly. She chose him. Found him at a casino. Targeted him specifically because he's my nephew. Because she researched our family and saw the lodge. James is a victim as much as he's a perpetrator. She's been manipulating him from the start. But, and this is important, he's still responsible for his choices. He chose to gamble, chose to lie, chose to threaten me. The trigger clause in the will is your protection. As long as you don't sign anything, as long as you don't agree to commercialize or transfer the property, it stays yours. The moment anyone tries to force you, tries to file fraudulent paperwork, tries to claim ownership they don't have, the lodge automatically transfers to the National Land Trust. Forever protected, forever safe. But EV, you have to let them try. You have to let them show themselves fully. Only then will the clause activate. Only then will you see clearly enough to decide what to do about James. I love you. Be smarter than they think you are. Robert. I read the letter 3 times. Then I opened the folder. The photos were damning. James at roulette tables, poker rooms, slot machines. His face flushed, desperate, chasing losses. The loan documents were worse. $350,000 borrowed from someone named David Sterling. Interest rate, 15%, compounding monthly. Penalty clause for late payment, to be determined by lender. My stomach churned. The emails between James and Bella made me physically sick. From Bella to James, the old man won't last another year. Doctors give him 6 months tops. Once he's gone, you inherit. We convert the property and we're free. Just keep him happy. Keep him thinking you care. From James to Bella, what if he leaves it to Mom instead? From Bella to James, then we work through her. She trusts you. She'll sign whatever you put in front of her. Women her age don't understand legal documents anyway. The dates were 2 years old, long before Robert's final decline. They'd been planning this while he was still healthy, still hoping. I photographed every page with my phone, copied everything to my laptop, backed it up to the cloud, to my flash drive, to an external hard drive I found in Robert's desk drawer. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, closed the safe, locked the office door. Downstairs, I made tea, sat at the kitchen table, and watched the sun set through the western windows, painting the mountains purple and gold. My phone buzzed. A text from James. Mom, I'm sorry about earlier. Can we try again? Dinner tomorrow. I didn't respond. Another text came 5 minutes later, from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Gable, this is Dylan Thompson, the architect. I wanted to reach out personally. Your son contacted me 3 months ago about the lodge. He told me you were elderly, declining mentally, and that he had power of attorney. I believed him. I should have verified. I'm sorry. If you need someone to testify about what he claimed, I'm willing. Here's my direct number. I saved the contact. Typed back. Thank you. I may take you up on that. His response came immediately. I've seen this before. Adult children taking advantage. It's more common than people think. Protect yourself. I set the phone down, wrapped my hands around the tea mug, letting the warmth seep into my arthritic joints. Protect yourself. Robert had given me the tools, the legal protections, the evidence, the warnings. Now I just had to be strong enough to use them. I didn't answer James' calls, didn't respond to his texts, let Bella's voicemails pile up unlistened. I spent the time learning the lodge again. Every room, every closet, every hiding place from childhood games of hide and seek. I found Robert's journal in his bedroom nightstand. Leather-bound pages filled with his doctor's appointments and a shaky, but unmistakable handwriting. The entries from the last year were painful to read. June 15th, James called again, asking about my health. Not, how are you feeling? But, have you updated your will lately? I pretended not to notice. July 3rd, Evelyn visited, brought her famous zucchini bread. Didn't tell her about the stage 4 diagnosis. She has enough to worry about. Her apartment building is selling. She's looking at places she can barely afford. August 10th, caught James in my office. He said he was looking for old photos. The safe was warm when I checked later. He tried to open it. Failed. September 3rd, met with Thomas. Set up the trigger clause. If I'm right about James and Bella, this will protect Evie. If I'm wrong, she can override it. Either way, she chooses. Not them. September 28th, James brought Bella to dinner. She asked detailed questions about the property value, maintenance costs, insurance. Took photos of every room with her phone. They think I don't notice. October 15th, chest pain's worse. Hospital says maybe 3 months. Haven't told anyone. Need to finish securing everything for Evie first. November 1st. Change the safe combination. Added new documents. If Evie finds this, she'll know what to do. She's stronger than she thinks. The journal ended there, 3 weeks before he died. I sat on his bed, holding the journal, and cried. For my brother, for the son I'd raised who'd become someone I didn't recognize. For the future that should have been different. Then I dried my eyes, put the journal back, and went downstairs to make dinner. That's when I heard the voices outside. Through the kitchen window, I saw them, James and Bella, standing next to a county assessor's truck. A woman in a government jacket was walking the property perimeter with them, taking notes. I opened the door, stepped onto the porch. What's going on? The assessor looked up, startled. James smiled, that too bright smile that meant he was caught. Mom. Hi. This is Linda from the county assessor's office. Just doing a routine evaluation for the property records. Routine. I repeated. Linda looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. Ma'am, are you the property owner? I am. Then I apologize. I was told the owner had requested this assessment for potential rezoning. I requested no such thing. James jumped in. I must have miscommunicated, Linda. Sorry for the confusion. We can reschedule. No need to reschedule, I said, cutting him off. Because there will be no rezoning. No assessment. No changes to this property whatsoever. Linda nodded, closing her notebook. Understood. Mr. Gable, please don't contact our office again without written permission from the legal owner. She shot James a look that suggested this wasn't the first time she dealt with his shenanigans. After she left, I turned to James and Bella. You tried to have it rezoned without telling me. We were being proactive, Bella said. The current zoning is residential. To build a resort, we need commercial zoning. It's a 6-month process. I don't care if it's a 6-year process. You don't get to make decisions about my property. Technically, Bella said, her voice going cold, the property taxes are due in 60 days. $14,000. Where exactly are you planning to get that money, Evelyn? My stomach dropped. I'd seen the property tax bill in Robert's files. He paid a year in advance, but that was 14 months ago. The next payment was coming due. $14,000. More than I had in savings. More than I could earn in 6 months on Social Security. Bella saw my expression and smiled. We were offering to cover it, as an investment, in exchange for power of attorney, to manage the property's commercial development. You retain ownership, we handle everything else. And my brother's clause? What clause? But her eyes gave her away. She knew. The trigger clause that makes the lodge revert to the National Land Trust. If anyone tries to commercialize it. James and Bella exchanged quick, worried glances. We talked to a lawyer, James said finally. There are ways around it. Legal challenges. Grandfather clauses. Get off my property. Mom, get out. They left. But Bella's words hung in the air. $14,000. I didn't know how, but I had 60 days to figure it out. That night, I called Thomas Whitfield again. The property tax, I said. If I can't pay it, the county can seize the property, right? Not immediately, he interrupted, his voice gentle. There's a grace period, penalties, but no seizure for at least a year. And if James and Bella pay it, they can try. But unless you sign documentation accepting it as a loan with terms, they're just making a gift. They have no claim. So I let them pay it. Evelyn. Thomas's voice was warm. Your brother left you more than the lodge. There's a bank account. He didn't mention it in the will reading because he wanted it to be private. Between you and me. How much? My breath hitched. $87,000. Enough to cover property taxes for 5 years. Maintenance. Living expenses. I sank onto a chair. He never told me. He wanted to make sure James didn't know. Didn't count on it. This money is yours. No strings, no probate. Direct transfer the day after the will was read. Why didn't you tell me? I'm telling you now. When you need to know. He paused. Robert was very clear about the timing. She'll need to see James's true nature first, he said. Then she'll need to know she's not trapped. I checked my bank account. There it was. Deposited 3 days ago. I'd been so overwhelmed, I hadn't even looked. $87,402. My brother's final gift. His final protection. I cried again, but this time, they were tears of relief. I had options. I had time. I had resources they didn't know about. Now I just needed a plan. Cold autumn, rain turned the gravel drive to mud and made the windows weep. I built a fire in the stone fireplace, wrapped myself in one of Robert's old flannel shirts, and organized my evidence. 3 folders. 1. Financial, James's debts, Bella's background, the casino photos. 2. Legal, the trigger clause, the deed, Thomas's documentation. 3. Communications, emails, texts, recorded conversations. But I needed more. More proof that they were actively trying to defraud me. More documentation that would hold up if this went to court. That's when I remembered James had said Bella had investors, real ones, people putting actual money into their resort scheme. If I could prove they were soliciting investment for property they didn't own, that was fraud. Clear. Prosecutable. I opened my laptop, searched for Pinnacle Ventures and Rebecca Stone. The results were damning. 4 lawsuits in 5 years, each one following the same pattern. Rebecca, Bella, befriended wealthy families, identified valuable assets, convinced them to invest or develop the properties, then disappeared with the capital while the properties went to foreclosure. The Reeves family in Montana had lost a 2,000-acre cattle ranch. The Millers in Oregon lost a waterfront hotel. The Patterson family in Washington lost 3 coffee shops and their family home. Total damages across all cases, $4.8 million. And she'd never served jail time. Why? I dug deeper, found the answer in court documents. She'd used shell companies, made the investments look legitimate. By the time families realized what happened, she transferred the money offshore and filed bankruptcy under the business name. She'd learned from each case, gotten better at hiding the trail. Now, she'd set her sights on our lodge. I printed everything, added it to the folders, photographed each page, and uploaded to 3 separate cloud accounts. If they destroyed the physical evidence, I'd still have backups. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Gable. This is Rick Sanderson. I'm the contractor Dylan Thompson recommended. He said you might need someone for repairs. I didn't ask for a contractor. I know, Rick said, his voice calm. Dylan was worried. He said your son has been making claims. Rick went on. Dylan thought you might need someone local. Someone who could document the actual condition of the property in case you need to dispute any false claims about necessary repairs. I understood immediately. You're offering to be a witness. I'm offering to do a legitimate property assessment for your records. No charge. And if your son's been lying about the lodge's condition, which Dylan suspects, you'll have proof. Why would you do this? Rick's voice softened. My mother went through something similar. Her second husband tried to have her declared incompetent so he could control her estate. By the time we figured it out, he'd already transferred half her assets. I will watch it happen to someone else, if I can help. When can you come up? I'm 20 minutes away. If you're free now, I'll have coffee ready. Rick Sanderson arrived in a white pickup truck with Sanderson and Sons Construction on the side. 50-something, work-worn hands, eyes that had seen too much hardship. He walked the property with me for 3 hours, checked every system, electrical, plumbing, heating, examined the roof, the foundation, the septic. Your brother maintained this place like a cathedral, Rick said, making notes on his tablet. The roof was replaced 6 years ago. Should last another 20. Heating system is old, but functioning perfectly. He had it serviced annually. Foundation is solid stone. No cracks. Plumbing is copper, original to the 1923 build. Valuable, actually. People pay a premium for this kind of craftsmanship now. He looked up at me. So, if someone claimed it needed extensive repairs, they'd be lying, or trying to justify unnecessary work. He showed me his notes. I'll write this up formally, notarized. If you need it for legal purposes. I'll need it, I confirmed. He nodded. Didn't ask why. Didn't need to. Before he left, Rick handed me his card. On the back, he'd written a phone number. If things get dangerous, he said quietly, that's my brother. He's a sheriff's deputy in the next county. Not official jurisdiction here, but he knows people. Knows how to handle situations where families turn ugly. You think it will, Mrs. Gable? I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen what desperation does to people. Your son owes money to dangerous people. His wife has a history of fraud. This lodge is worth over $1 million. He met my eyes, his gaze steady. They're not going to give up. And when people like that get desperate, they get dangerous. After Rick left, I sat on the porch in the rain. Let the cold soak through Robert's flannel shirt. Watched the mountains disappear into clouds. Dangerous. I'd been thinking of this as a legal battle, a family drama. But Rick was right. This was bigger. James owed $350,000 to someone named David Sterling. If he couldn't pay, what would Sterling do? And Bella, she'd already destroyed 4 families. What would she do to secure her 5th score? I thought about the locked office, about James having a key, about him knowing there were documents in the safe. What if he didn't give up? What if he tried to break in again? What if he tried to force me to sign papers? What if? And this thought made my blood run cold. What if they decided I was the obstacle? Elderly woman, living alone, isolated property, heart condition. Accidents happened all the time. I went inside, locked every door, every window, checked them twice. Then I called Thomas Whitfield one more time. I need to update my will, I said. Tonight. Tomorrow at the latest. If anything happens to me, anything suspicious, I want a full investigation. I want the trigger clause activated immediately. I want every asset I have to go to charity, not to James. And I want Dylan Thompson and Rick Sanderson to serve as witnesses to my mental state and the threats I've received. Evelyn, Thomas said, his voice worried. Do you think you're in danger? I think I'm an inconvenience worth $1.38 million to people who have already proven they're willing to commit fraud and worse. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. I'll draft the update tonight. We'll meet tomorrow morning first thing. And Evelyn, consider staying somewhere else. A hotel. A friend's house. No. If I leave, they'll know they've won. That I'm scared. Being scared isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Robert didn't run, I said, gripping the phone. I won't either. That night, I barely slept. Every sound was a potential threat. Every creak of old timber was an intruder. At 3 a.m., I heard a car in the driveway. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, but didn't press send. Waited. The car idled for 5 minutes, then drove away. In the morning, I found tire tracks in the mud and footprints leading to the office window. Someone had tried to look inside, had stood there peering through the glass. They were watching, planning, and I was running out of time to stay ahead of them. Or maybe it was an accident. Maybe some part of me knew to look deeper, to not accept the polished surface she presented. It was the logo that started it. That small triangle in silver on the brochure she'd slammed down, the one for the Gable experience. I'd seen it somewhere before, years ago, in a conversation with my late husband. Michael had been a financial advisor, conservative, careful, the kind of man who read the fine print on everything. One night over dinner, he'd shown me an article about predatory investment firms. These people, he'd said, tapping the page, they target family businesses, offer capital, make it seem like partnership. Then they bury the family in paperwork until they own everything. The logo in that article had been a silver triangle. Pinnacle Ventures Group. I sat at Robert's desk at 4 a.m., unable to sleep after finding those footprints. My laptop glowed in the darkness as I searched. Pinnacle Ventures had an official website, clean, professional, testimonials from satisfied clients, photos of successful properties. But a deeper search revealed the cracks. Lawsuits, 4 of them, filed in different states over the past 7 years. I clicked on the first case, Reeves versus Pinnacle Ventures, LLC, Montana District Court, 2019. The Reeves family had owned a cattle ranch outside Billings, 2,000 acres, 3 generations, debt-free, until Rebecca Stone came into their lives. According to the court documents, Rebecca had married Daniel Reeves, the youngest son. Within 6 months, she convinced the family to take out loans against the property to modernize operations. Pinnacle Ventures provided the capital at 18% interest. When the Reeves couldn't make payments, Pinnacle foreclosed. The family lost everything. The ranch sold at auction for $2.1 million. Pinnacle bought it through a shell company. Rebecca disappeared 2 weeks before the foreclosure. Divorced Daniel by email. Claimed she'd known nothing about the business arrangements. The lawsuit went nowhere. Rebecca had covered her tracks too well. I pulled up the other cases. Miller family in Oregon, waterfront hotel. Patterson family in Washington, coffee shop chain and family home. Thompson family in Idaho, commercial real estate. Same pattern every time. Rebecca married in, identified valuable assets, convinced families to leverage those assets for development capital from Pinnacle, then vanished when everything collapsed. For $0.8 million in total damages. And now she was married to my son, targeting our lodge. But here's what made my hands shake as I read. In each case, there were warning signs before the collapse. Suspicious accidents. A fire at the Miller Hotel that destroyed financial records. A car accident that injured Patterson's father right before he was supposed to meet with lawyers. Thompson's mother had a fall that left her hospitalized during crucial negotiations. Nothing provable, nothing prosecutable, but a pattern. Elderly woman living alone, isolated property. I took screenshots of everything, sent copies to 3 different email accounts, printed the most damaging pages, and added them to my folders. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I searched for David Sterling, the man James owed $350,000. What I found made my blood run cold. He was Pinnacle Ventures' CEO and primary shareholder. Which meant Bella hadn't just found James randomly at a casino. She'd been working for Sterling. This had been planned from the beginning. Find the mark, create the debt, offer the solution, take the asset. The sun was rising when I finally closed my laptop. Gray light filtered through the pine trees, making the mountains look like watercolor paintings. Beautiful and unreal. I made coffee, strong and black, sat at the kitchen table, and tried to organize my thoughts. James was desperate. Bella was a con artist. David Sterling was the puppet master. But why this property specifically? Colorado had hundreds of lodges, thousands of properties worth more than ours. I opened Robert's journal again. Flipped to the entries from 8 years ago. April 3rd, 2017, that man showed up again. David Sterling. Calls himself a developer. Wants to buy the lodge for some resort company. Offered $900K. I said no. He wasn't happy. April 17th, 2017, Sterling came back, offered 1.2 M. When I refused, he said I was sitting on wasted potential. Got aggressive. I called the sheriff. May 2nd, 2017, Sterling sent lawyers. They found an old mining claim from 1891 that supposedly gives him mineral rights to my land. Complete fabrication. I reported him to the state attorney general, June 15th, 2017. Sterling arrested for fraud. Not my case. Something else. He blamed me. Said I'd cost him everything. Threatened me in front of witnesses. Got 2 more years added to his sentence. I sat back, pieces clicking together. Sterling had served time because of Robert. Now Sterling was using James and Bella to get revenge and profit at the same time. This wasn't just about money. It was personal, which made it more dangerous. I looked through the window. First, a man I didn't recognize. 50-something, expensive suit. 2 other men flanking him like bodyguards. I didn't open the door. Can I help you? I called out. Mrs. Gable. I'm David Sterling. I believe we need to talk. My heart hammered. I have nothing to say to you. I think you do. I'm James's business partner. We have significant investments at stake. James has no authority to make business arrangements involving my property. Sterling smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps we're talking past each other. May I first come in? Just for a moment. I promise I'm not here to cause trouble. Everything in me screamed to refuse. But I needed to see him. Needed to understand what James was really dealing with. I opened the door 6 inches, kept the chain lock engaged. Sterling's smile widened. Smart woman. Your brother was smart, too. Stubborn, but smart. What do you want, Mr. Sterling? To make you an offer. A generous one. $1.8 million for the lodge. Cash. You walk away clean. Set for life. James's debt gets forgiven. Everyone wins. And if I refuse? His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something cold. Then we proceed through other channels. James signed papers, Mrs. Gable. Powers of attorney. Transfer agreements. We can do this the easy way, or the hard way. James had no power of attorney to sign. He believed he did. That's all that matters in court. By the time you prove otherwise, if you can, the property will be tied up in litigation for years. Legal fees will eat whatever you have left. You'll die broken, alone, fighting a battle you can't win. I met his gaze, unflinching. Get off my property. Think about it. I'll give you 48 hours. After that, things get complicated. He handed me a business card through the gap. They left. I watched through the window as their black SUV disappeared down the drive. Then I called 911. I need to report a threat, I told the dispatcher. A man named David Sterling just came to my home and threatened me. The deputy who responded was young, earnest, took notes carefully as I explained. But his expression told me what I needed to know. Ma'am, he didn't technically threaten you. He made you a business offer. Even the part about litigation, that's not illegal to mention. He said things would get complicated if I refused. That's vague, not specific enough for a restraining order. The deputy looked genuinely sorry. My advice, don't meet with him alone. Get a lawyer. Document everything. After he left, I sat on the porch, watched the mountains, tried to calm the shaking in my hands. They were escalating. 48 hours. 2 days to decide. But I didn't need 2 days. I knew my answer. Now I just needed to survive long enough to see it through. Alone this time. No Bella. No Sterling. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. The BMW was parked crooked in the drive, like he'd been in too much of a hurry to care. Mom, his voice cracked. We need to talk. Really talk. I let him in, poured coffee, sat across from him at the kitchen table. Sterling came here, I said. James's face went gray. He wasn't supposed to. I told him to give you space. He gave me 48 hours to sell, or face complications. God! James put his head in his hands. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. Never wanted you involved. Then why am I? He looked up. His eyes were red. Because I'm an idiot. Because I made mistakes and kept making them until I was drowning. And the only lifeline was your inheritance. Tell me everything. No lies. No spin. Just the truth. So he did. A business trip to Vegas. James had gone with colleagues from his marketing firm. Just for fun, he'd said. Just to try the tables. He won $8,000 his first night. Felt like magic. Like he discovered a secret the world was keeping from him. He went back. And back. And back. Within a year, he'd lost $50,000. Maxed out 3 credit cards. Took out a second mortgage on his house. His first wife, Sarah, mother of his 2 kids, found out, filed for divorce, got full custody because James couldn't prove financial stability. That's when Bella entered his life. She found me at a casino in Atlantic City, James said, staring into his coffee. I was at a poker table, down 10,000, trying to win it back. She sat next to me, started talking. She was beautiful, interested, understanding. Said her ex-husband had gambling problems too. That she understood. She targeted you. I finished quietly. I didn't know that then. I thought. His voice broke. I thought someone finally understood. Finally didn't judge me. Bella had been patient. Dated him for 6 months before mentioning Pinnacle Ventures. Introduced him to Sterling as a friend who could help. Sterling offered loans, reasonable rates at first. Enough to pay off the credit cards, consolidate the debts. But the rates weren't fixed. They ballooned. Compounded. By the time James realized what was happening, he owed $200,000. Sterling said there was one way out, James continued. One asset I could leverage, Uncle Robert's lodge. If I could get it, develop it, Sterling would clear the debt and split the profits. So you waited for him to die? No. God, no. I hoped. I thought maybe I could talk him into it. Convince him to co-develop while he was still alive. Make it a family project. But he refused. He saw through it. Saw through me. James's hands were shaking now. That night when I told him to just die, I was drunk. Desperate. I didn't mean it, but I can't take it back. He choked back a sob. And Bella she pushed. Kept pushing. Said we were running out of time. That Sterling was getting impatient. That if I didn't deliver, he'd... James stopped. He what? James. He'd hurt you to motivate me. The words fell like stones between us. That's why I've been so aggressive, James said rapidly. Why I've been trying to force this through. I thought if I could just get the property converted, sold, everyone paid off, you'd be safe. We'd all be safe. James, you can't negotiate with people like Sterling. You can't appease them. I know that now. But what choice do I have? If I don't deliver, He looked at me. Really looked at me. Mom, I think he'll kill you. Make it look like an accident. He's done it before. You have proof. Bella told me things when she was drunk. About previous deals. About people who got in the way. James pulled out his phone. I started recording our conversations 3 weeks ago. In case I needed evidence. He showed me audio files. Dates and timestamps. Bella's voice, slurred with wine. The Miller fire wasn't an accident. David paid someone $20,000 to torch the hotel, destroyed all their financial records. By the time they reconstructed everything, we owned the property. Another recording. Thompson's mother? That wasn't a fall. David has people. They make things happen. It's cleaner than you'd think. My blood ran cold. You've been sitting on this? I was scared. If Sterling found out I was recording Bella, he'd kill you too. We sat in silence. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, pine branches scraped against the window. I need these recordings, I said finally. All of them. Sent to my email. And to Thomas Whitfield. And to the state attorney general. If I do that, Sterling will know. He's already planning something, James. You said it yourself. We're out of time for playing defense. Then what do we do? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Saw the scared boy underneath the desperate man. Saw the mistakes and the manipulation and the genuine fear. He was a victim here, too. Not innocent. Not blameless. But a victim nonetheless. We give him what he wants, I said slowly. Or let him think we are. James would tell Bella I'd agreed to a meeting. A negotiation with Sterling, Bella, James, and me at the lodge. They'd come expecting surrender. Expecting me to sign papers. Instead, they'd walk into evidence. Recording devices. Witnesses. Everything documented. They'll never agree to witnesses, James said, shaking his head. They won't know about them. Rick Sanderson and Dylan Thompson can hide, record everything from the office upstairs. The meeting happens in the great room. They'll hear every word. And then what? Then we hand the recordings to the police. Not just police. Media. Attorney General. National Land Trust. Everyone who needs to know that Pinnacle Ventures has been operating a criminal enterprise. James looked doubtful. Sterling slipped away before. What makes you think this time will be different? I smiled. Not a happy smile. A cold one. Because I'm going to make him angry enough to forget to be careful. 6 p.m. The lodge. Final negotiations. James called it when he texted Bella. Her response came in seconds. Perfect. David will be pleased. Make sure she's ready to sign. I spent the day preparing. Called Rick and Dylan, explained the plan. Both agreed immediately. I'll bring professional recording equipment, Dylan said. Audio and video, multiple angles. Nothing they say will be missed. And I'll have my brother on standby, Rick added. The deputy. If things go wrong, he can be here in 10 minutes. I met with Thomas Whitfield that afternoon, updated my will, signed affidavits, created a paper trail that would survive me if necessary. Evelyn, Thomas said as I was leaving. Are you sure about this? These are dangerous people. I'm sure. My brother protected me. Now I need to protect what he left behind. That evening, as the sun set and shadows grew long, Rick and Dylan arrived. We set up the equipment. Cameras hidden in book spines on the shelves. Microphones tucked into lamp bases. Everything wireless. Everything backed up to the cloud in real time. If they find the equipment, Dylan started. They won't look, I said, surprising myself with my own conviction. People like Sterling are overconfident. They'll assume a woman my age is too naive to think of this. At 5:45, Rick and Dylan went upstairs, settled into the office with the door cracked, monitors showing 4 different angles of the great room. I stood alone, smoothed my cardigan, the same one I'd worn to the will reading, pressed my thumb into my palm. Be strong. Be smart. At exactly 6 p.m., I heard cars in the drive. Here we go. Sterling first. Same expensive suit. Same cold smile. Behind him, Bella, in designer everything. James bringing up the rear, looking like he might be sick. Mrs. Gable. Sterling extended his hand. I didn't take it. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't agree. I'm listening. There's a difference. Fair enough. He sat without being invited. Bella sat next to him. James hovered near the door. Let's be direct. You've had 48 hours. I'm prepared to raise my offer to $2 million. Final offer. $2 million. For a property worth $1.38 million. Generous, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I'm factoring in your cooperation. Your silence about certain misunderstandings. You mean the fraud, the extortion, the threats? Sterling's smile didn't waver. Those are strong words. Emotional words. In business, we prefer accurate terminology. Then let's be accurate. You targeted my nephew, used Bella to manipulate him into debt, planned to steal this property the same way you've stolen 4 others. Bella tensed. Sterling held up a hand. Mrs. Gable, I think you've been misinformed. James came to me for legitimate business loans. I provided capital in good faith. If he made poor investments, that's unfortunate, but not my responsibility. The Reeves family, the Millers, the Pattersons, the Thompsons, 4 families ruined, $4.8 million stolen. Alleged. Never proven. Sterling leaned forward, his voice a low growl. Let me tell you what I can prove. Your brother cost me 3 years of my life. He reported me to authorities on false charges. I served time because of his lies. You served time because you tried to steal his property with a fake mining claim. I served time because your brother was a vindictive old man who couldn't handle competition. Sterling's voice went cold. Finally, the mask was slipping. He cost me everything. My reputation. My freedom. 3 years in a cage, because he couldn't stand to see someone succeed. So this is revenge. This is justice, I countered. Your brother took from me. Now I'm taking from him. Only he's not here to suffer. So you get to instead. He smiled again. Cold. Poetic, don't you think? And if I refuse to sell? Sterling stood, walked to the fireplace, picked up Robert's photo, the one from last summer. Then accidents happen. Old lodges, faulty wiring, gas leaks, elderly women living alone. He set the photo down carefully. The statistics are tragic, really. How many seniors die in house fires each year? My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. You're threatening to kill me. I'm noting possibilities. Outcomes. The natural consequences of poor choices. You've done this before. The Miller Hotel fire. The accident that hurt Patterson's father. Alleged. And proven. But his smile confirmed it. He was enjoying this. Enjoying my fear. What about Thompson's mother? The fall that wasn't a fall. Accidents. Tragic accidents. He moved closer. Here's what's going to happen, Mrs. Gable. You're going to sign these papers. He nodded to Bella, who pulled documents from her bag. You're going to transfer the deed to a holding company I control. You're going to take your $2 million and disappear quietly. Live whatever years you have left in comfort. And if I don't, then you won't have years left. You'll have days. Maybe hours. The room was silent. Just the crackle of the fire, the tick of the clock. Then I smiled. Really smiled. Thank you for clarifying, I said. Sterling frowned. Clarifying what? Your intentions. Your methods. Your past crimes. I looked at the bookshelf, at the camera hidden in the spine of Moby Dick. Every word of this conversation has been recorded. Audio and video. Multiple angles. Already backed up to the cloud and sent to 3 different attorneys. The color drained from Sterling's face. You're bluffing. Dylan. I called toward the stairs. Rick, please come down. Footsteps on the stairs. Dylan appeared first, holding his phone, the screen showing the live feed. Rick followed, with a professional video camera. Every threat, Dylan said calmly. Every confession. Every admission. Timestamped and authenticated. Sterling lunged toward the bookshelf. Rick stepped between us. Don't, Rick said, his voice firm. It's already uploaded. Destroying the equipment won't help. Bella was on her feet. You stupid old woman. Actually, I said, my voice steady, I'm a very smart old woman. Smart enough to let you talk yourselves into prison sentences. Sterling's hands curled into fists. For a moment, I thought he might attack. Might risk everything on one violent act. Then James spoke. It's over, Sterling. His voice was quiet, but firm. I'm testifying against both of you. Bella whipped toward him. You traitor. I'm not a traitor. I'm your victim. And I'm done being one. Sterling pointed at James. You signed papers. You're complicit. You'll go down, too. Maybe. Probably. James met my eyes. But at least my mother will be safe. We heard the sirens then. Coming up the mountain road. Rick's brother, the deputy, plus state police. Thomas had alerted them an hour ago. I'd sit down if I were you, I told Sterling. Running will just make it worse. Extortion, fraud, conspiracy, terroristic threats. The charges kept mounting as police played the recordings, examined the documents Rick and Dylan had cataloged. They'd send the audio to federal authorities, to state attorneys general in 4 states. By tomorrow, the investigation into Pinnacle Ventures would be nationwide news. James wasn't arrested. Not yet. They'd need his testimony. He'd likely face charges, eventually, fraud, maybe conspiracy to commit fraud. But he'd chosen the right side. Finally, when it mattered most, after the police left, after Sterling and Bella were driven away in separate squad cars, James and I sat alone in the great room. I'm sorry, he said, his voice raw. For everything. For all of it. I know. I'll go to rehab for the gambling. And I'll face whatever charges come. I won't run. I know that too. Do you think? He stopped, started again. Do you think we can ever fix this? You and me? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Saw the damage. Saw the potential for healing. Saw the long road ahead. I don't know, I said honestly. But you're alive. I'm alive. That's more than Sterling intended. Where do we start? With the truth. All of it. To the police. To your kids. They deserve to know why you disappeared from their lives. To yourself. James nodded, wiped his eyes. Can I stay the night? On the couch? I don't want to be alone right now. I should have said no. Should have protected myself. Kept distance. But he was still my son. Broken, but mine. One night, I said. Then you check into rehab. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, he agreed. That night I finally slept. Really slept. For the first time since Robert died, because the immediate threat was over. Or so I thought. I found out when Thomas called at 6 a.m., waking me from the first real sleep I'd had in days. They set bail at $500,000. He posted it immediately. Evelyn, he's out. I sat up, heart pounding. How? The charges. He has an expensive lawyer. Argued he's not a flight risk, that the charges are based primarily on a recording that could be challenged as entrapment. Thomas's voice was tight with frustration. The judge bought it. He's out pending trial. What about the restraining order? It's in place. He can't come within 500 feet of you or the property. But Evelyn, men like Sterling don't always respect legal boundaries. I looked at James, still asleep on the couch, his face peaceful for the first time in days. He talked until midnight about the gambling, the debts, the lies he told himself. Then he cried, really cried, and I'd held him like I used to when he was small and the world felt too big. What do I do? I asked Thomas, come stay with me and my wife, just for a few days, until the arraignment. No, that's giving him power, letting him chase me from my own home. Then let me hire private security. With what money, Thomas? I can't afford bodyguards. He was quiet. Then Robert's account. There's enough. That money is for property taxes, maintenance. You can't spend it if you're dead. His voice softened. Please, let me at least hire someone for the nights. Someone to watch the property while you sleep. I wanted to refuse, to be brave and independent, but I thought about Sterling's face when he threatened me, the cold certainty in his eyes. Okay, I said, but just nights. During the day, I'm fine. Marcus, retired sheriff's deputy, 62. Kind eyes that had seen too much darkness. He arrived that evening at 6 p.m., carrying his thermos in a small bag. I'll be outside in my truck. Motion sensors on all the doors and windows. Anyone comes near the property, I'll know. You need me? Press this. He handed me a small button. Emergency alert. Go straight to my phone and 911. Thank you. Rick Sanderson told me what you're dealing with. Men like Sterling. He shook his head. They don't take losing well. You did good standing up to him. But be careful. The most dangerous time is right after they've been caught. That night I tried to sleep. Failed. Every sound was a potential threat. Every creak of settling timber was an intruder. At 2 a.m. my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You think you won? You didn't. This isn't over. I showed Marcus in the morning. He photographed it. Sent it to the police. Violation of the restraining order, he said. But they'll say they can't prove Sterling sent it. Burner phone. Untraceable. So he can just keep threatening me until he does something concrete. Yeah, it's the flaw in the system. James left for rehab that afternoon. A facility in Montana. 30 days minimum, 60 recommended. He'd hug me before he left. Held on longer than necessary. I'll make this right, Mom. I promise. Just make yourself right, James. That's all I need. After he drove away, the lodge felt emptier than it had since Robert died. Just me. And Marcus's truck in the driveway. And the waiting. Always the waiting. Marcus woke me at 10:04 a.m., pounding on the door. Mrs. Gable, get up. Someone's trying to break into the office. I grabbed my phone and the emergency button, followed Marcus upstairs. The office door was ajar. Someone had picked the lock, cleanly, professionally. But they triggered the motion sensor Marcus had installed. Inside, the safe stood open. Empty. They knew the combination, I whispered. Marcus checked the room. Windows still locked from inside. They came through the house, which means they had a key. James's key. The one Robert had given him years ago. But James was in rehab, checked in yesterday. No way to get here. Unless he'd given someone else the key before he left. I called the facility, asked to speak to James. The night counselor was apologetic but firm. I'm sorry, Mrs. Gable. Patients aren't allowed phone contact for the first 72 hours. It's part of the detox protocol. This is an emergency. Everyone says that, ma'am. The rule exists for a reason. He'll be able to call you on Sunday. I hung up, looked at Marcus. Could Sterling have made a copy of James's key before? Possibly. But how would he know the safe combination? That's when I remember the videos Robert had recorded, the ones of James asking for money. James had been in this office, had seen Robert open the safe, could have memorized the combination. And James had been sharing everything with Bella for months. She told him, I said. Bella knew the combination from James. She told Sterling. We called the police. They came, took statements, photographed the open safe. Problem is, the deputy said, nothing's actually missing. You said yourself the important documents were removed days ago. Without stolen property, we can't prove attempted burglary, just trespassing. He violated the restraining order. If we can prove it was Sterling, not some random burglar. The deputy looked genuinely sorry. I'll file the report, but Mrs. Gable, legally speaking, our hands are tied until he does something we can definitively prove. After they left, Marcus and I sat in the kitchen. Dawn was breaking. Neither of us had slept. He's escalating, Marcus said, testing boundaries, seeing what he can get away with. What do I do? You leave today. Go somewhere he can't find you. I can't run forever. You can run until the trial, until he's convicted and locked up. And if he's not convicted? If his expensive lawyers get him off? I shook my head. Then I've lost anyway. Given up my home, given him the power. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then there might be another way. What way? Give him what he wants. Or make him think you are. Marcus laid it out logically. Sterling wanted the lodge. Wanted revenge on Robert through me. Wanted to win. So, we let him think he's winning. We leak information. Make them believe you're ready to settle, ready to sell. He'll never believe that. Not after I had him arrested. He'll believe you're scared, exhausted, that the legal battle is too much, that you just want peace. And then what? Then we set up a meeting. Public place. Lots of witnesses. You agreed to discuss terms, but really, we're creating an opportunity for him to incriminate himself again. Only this time, the police are there. Ready. He won't fall for it. Men like Sterling, they're arrogant. They think they're smarter than everyone else. And they can't resist the chance to gloat. Marcus leaned forward. We make it look real. Make him feel safe. Then we trap him. I thought about it. About the alternative. Months of legal battles. Looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next break-in or threat. Okay, I said. But we do it right. No mistakes. This is entrapment, Evelyn. Anything he says could be thrown out. Not if I'm genuinely discussing a sale. Not if it's a legitimate business meeting. I'd done my research. Stayed up all night reading legal precedents. As long as police aren't actively coercing him, as long as I'm acting as a private citizen exploring options, it's legal. It's dangerous. Everything about the situation is dangerous. At least this way, I control the danger. We spent 2 days setting it up. Thomas leaked information to Sterling's lawyer, carefully worded, suggesting I was overwhelmed, considering my options. The response came within hours. Sterling's lawyer wanted to meet, discuss a potential settlement. No admission of guilt, but perhaps a mutually beneficial arrangement. We set it for Friday afternoon, 2 p.m., at a restaurant in town. Public. Busy. Lots of witnesses. But we didn't tell Sterling about the additional guests I'd invited. I put on the same outfit I'd worn to Robert's Will reading. The cardigan with the missing button, sensible shoes, hair pulled back simply. I wanted to look tired, defeated, like a woman who'd lost. Dylan and Rick arrived at noon. They'd be at the restaurant early, seated at separate tables, recording everything. Marcus would be outside, watching. And in the parking lot, in an unmarked car, would be Detective Sarah Chun from the State Police Fraud Division. She'd been investigating Pinnacle Ventures for months. Our case had given her the opening she needed. I can't intervene unless he actively threatens you, she told me during our planning session. But I'll be close, and I'll be recording. If he incriminates himself, if he says anything that connects him to the previous frauds, I can move. At 1:30, Thomas drove me to the restaurant, the Elkridge Cafe. Robert's favorite. Homestyle cooking, red vinyl booths, waitresses who called everyone honey. We got there early, took a corner booth with clear sightlines. Rick was 2 tables over, newspaper open. Dylan sat at the counter, nursing coffee. At 1:58, Sterling arrived. He looked confident. Expensive suit. Smiled at the hostess. Shook Thomas's hand like they were old friends. Mrs. Gable, he sat across from me. I'm glad you've reconsidered. I haven't reconsidered anything. I'm listening. That's all. Fair enough. He ordered coffee, waited until the waitress left. Let's speak plainly. You're tired. This legal battle is costing you money you don't have. The property is costing you money. You're alone, scared, and ready for it to be over. Accurate, so far. My offer stands. $2 million. You sign the deed over. Drop all charges. Sign an NDA about our previous misunderstandings. You walk away with enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life. And if I refuse? Sterling smiled, sipped his coffee. Then we proceed legally. My lawyers will challenge the restraining order. Challenge the validity of your recordings. Drag this out for years. You'll die buried in paperwork and legal fees. You're threatening me again. I'm stating facts. Business facts. He leaned forward. Evelyn, may I call you Evelyn? You're not built for this fight. You're a retired cafeteria worker living on Social Security. I'm a businessman with unlimited resources. This ends one way. The only question is how much you suffer first. Thomas started to speak. I put a hand on his arm. What about the other families? I asked. The Reeves, the Millers, the Pattersons, the Thompsons. Do they get settlements, too? Compensation for what you stole? Sterling's expression didn't change. I don't know what you're talking about. The families Bella defrauded while working for you. The families you've been targeting for years. Bella acted alone. Any illegal activity was hers, not mine. I'm a legitimate businessman who made loans in good faith. And the fire at the Miller Hotel? The accident that hurt Patterson's father? Tragic coincidences. Nothing more. You admitted to them on tape. In my living room. Sterling laughed. Actually laughed. That recording. My lawyers will have it thrown out. You'll see. Entrapment. Emotional duress. Inadmissible. What about Bella's recordings? The ones James made, where she admits you ordered the fire. That you've made people disappear before. His smile finally faltered. What recordings? The ones James sent to the FBI 2 days ago. Hours of Bella talking about your operations. Your methods. Your past crimes. Sterling's face went pale. You're lying. Am I? Call your lawyer. Ask him about the federal subpoena that was served this morning. I was bluffing, partially. James had sent recordings to the FBI, but I had no idea if they'd actually issued a subpoena yet. Sterling stood abruptly. Coffee cup clattered. This meeting is over. Sit down, Mr. Sterling. Everyone turned. Detective Chun stood at the entrance. Badge displayed. 2 uniformed officers behind her. What is this? Sterling demanded. This is you being served with a federal arrest warrant. Chun walked forward calmly. David Sterling, you're under arrest for wire fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent. Sterling tried to run. Made it 3 steps before the officers grabbed him. They cuffed him right there, in front of a restaurant full of witnesses. As they let him out, he looked back at me. Pure hatred in his eyes. This isn't over, he hissed. Yes, I said, meeting his gaze. It is. First wave, the media. Sterling's arrest made national news. Multi-million-dollar con artist finally caught. The stories mentioned me. Elderly woman outsmarts criminal enterprise. I hated the attention, but Thomas said it was good. Public awareness means public pressure. The prosecutors can't go easy on him now. Second wave, the other families. I got calls from the Reeves, the Millers, the Pattersons. Crying. Thanking me. Asking if there was hope now for restitution. There's hope, I told each of them. Real hope. Third wave, Bella's arrest. She'd been out on bail, too. But James's recordings, combined with Sterling's arrest, gave prosecutors enough to charge her with conspiracy to commit murder. No bail this time. And fourth wave, James. Mom. His voice was different. Clearer. Steadier. I heard about Sterling. About everything. How are you? I'm sober, I said, a slight smile forming. 30 days tomorrow. He paused. It's harder than I expected, but I'm doing it. I'm proud of you. Don't be. Not yet. I need to earn that. He took a breath. The prosecutor called. They want me to testify against both of them. Sterling and Bella. Will you? Yes. I'm scared of what it means. What could happen to me legally, but I'll do it. It's the right thing. It is. And Mom, I've been thinking about Sarah. About the kids. His first wife. His children. Emma, 10 and Mason 8. I hadn't seen them in 3 years. I want to make amends, try to rebuild. But I don't know if she'll even talk to me. I can reach out to her if you want. Would you? Of course. After we hung up, I cried. Not from sadness. From something else. Something that felt like hope. She was hesitant at first, guarded. She'd been hurt badly by James's gambling and lies. I don't know if I can trust him again, she said. I'm not asking you to trust him. I'm asking if you'd let him try to earn it back. Slowly. With therapy. With proof. I paused. The kids ask about him. Emma especially. She doesn't understand why her dad disappeared. Then let him try to explain. When he's ready. When he's been sober 90 days. 6 months. However long it takes. I paused. Sarah, I know he hurt you, hurt them, but people can change if they want it badly enough. Do you think he wants it? I think he's finally ready to try. We talked for an hour. About James. About the kids. About the lodge. I saw the news, Sarah said. What you did. Standing up to those people. You're braver than I ever was. You left a man who was destroying himself and protected your children. That's the definition of brave. Before we hung up, Sarah said, if James stays sober, if he does the work, really does it, I'll bring the kids to visit. Maybe Thanksgiving. Really? Maybe. No promises, but maybe. It was more than I'd hoped for. Sterling's lawyers tried everything. Motions to dismiss. Challenges to evidence. Delays. But the federal prosecutor was relentless. We've got him on 17 counts, she told me during one of our meetings. Fraud, racketeering, witness tampering, conspiracy. The recordings you made are just part of it. We've been building this case for years. Sterling's been on our radar since 2018, but he was careful. Too careful. Until you handed us everything we needed. The trial started in March. I attended every day. Sat in the gallery with Thomas on one side, Marcus on the other. James testified on day 3. He looked different. Clearer-eyed. Present in a way I hadn't seen in years. He told the truth, all of it. His gambling, his debts, how Bella had manipulated him, how Sterling had threatened me. I take full responsibility for my choices, James said under oath. But I won't protect the people who exploited my weakness to commit crimes. The jury watched him closely. I couldn't tell if they believed him, if they saw him as victim or accomplice. Bella testified, too. Tried to paint herself as innocent, a dutiful wife who knew nothing. But James's recordings destroyed her defense. Her own words, slurred with wine, admitting to fraud and violence. The verdict came on a Tuesday, after 3 days of deliberation. Guilty. On all counts for both of them. Sterling got 25 years. Bella got 18. Neither would be eligible for parole for at least a decade. James. Fraud, conspiracy, lesser charges. Because the judge believed he was genuinely trying to change. 18 months minimum security, eligible for work release after 9 months. It's fair, James said when I visited him before he reported. It's what I deserve. What will you do after? Rebuild. Maybe try to be a father again. If Sarah will let me. She will, James. I think. If you prove you mean it. I do mean it, Mom. I swear I do. We hugged. I held him like I used to when he was small. I love you, I said. Even when I'm angry. Even when I'm disappointed. I love you. I love you too. Snow melted. Creeks ran high. Wildflowers erupted across the meadow behind the lodge. I spent my days slowly bringing the lodge back to life. Not as a resort, as something better. Dylan helped me draw up plans. Rick handled the construction. Thomas navigated the legal requirements. We converted the lodge into a retreat center. Not commercial. Non-profit. The Robert Gable Memorial Sanctuary. The sign out front read, a place of healing for families in crisis. Free retreats for families dealing with addiction, with fraud, with financial abuse, with the aftermath of crime. A place where parents and children could rebuild trust, where healing could happen in the mountains Robert had loved. The National Land Trust agreed to the arrangement. The trigger clause allowed for nonprofit use. As long as no one profited, as long as the land stayed protected, they'd support it. We opened in June. Our first family, the Millers, who'd lost their hotel to Pinnacle Ventures, came for a week. They left with something they hadn't had in years. Hope. I was in the kitchen, preparing Robert's favorite recipes, sweet potato casserole, herb stuffing, apple pie, when I heard the car. Through the window I saw them. Sarah's minivan. Emma and Mason tumbling out, bundled in winter coats. And James, released on work furlough for the holiday. Thinner, grayer, but smiling. Really smiling. Emma saw me first. Grandma, she ran. I met her on the porch, swept her up. Even though my arms protested, even though my back complained, she felt solid and real and alive. I missed you, she whispered into my neck. I missed you too, sweetheart. Mason was more hesitant. 8 years old and already protective. He held Sarah's hand as they approached. Hi, Grandma, he said carefully. Hi, Mason. I'm so glad you came. James hung back, letting the kids have their moment. When our eyes met, I nodded. Come here. He crossed the porch, stood uncertain. Hi, Mom. Welcome home. We didn't hug. Not yet. That would come with time. With proof. With trust rebuilt slowly and carefully. But we sat together at dinner, all of us around Robert's old table.